We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. I have new equipment and I'm getting some information from my screen that says my voice may not be the best quality. So as long as you can hear it, then we're good. All right. Nice to see everybody. Nice to be here. I can remove my spotlight. That will be necessary because I still see a picture of me in Zoom and say, who's that old lady? Who is that? All right, there we go. So I'll get my gallery view and I'm going to ask Marisol to play our opening song and then we'll be right back. Righty. And we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome again. I'm going to read our statement of purpose from Awakening Together. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And then we always pick a core value that we think our homily is going to highlight. And I chose core value 3, that we accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. And after that, we're going to go into some announcements. Thank you all for your service to Awakening Together. We are truly blessed, all the people that come together to do this work. And I am very grateful to be a part of it. So before we head to opening song, I just wanted to chat a little bit about the title today, which was God Grant Me the Courage to Stay Put. And where that came about was, it's a kind of an honoring of my path. My lineage, as they say, is recovery. That was my liftoff. And so courage is spoken about quite a bit in recovery. And then there's also then I also spent some time with Way of Mastery. And there is I'm paraphrasing because I tried to find it. I could not find it. But there is a section in Way of Mastery that talks about in order to transcend this, it refers to the ego as a little gnat, which I always loved. In order to transcend this illusion of ourself, that some work has to be done. And it's pretty clear that there is some work, purification work that has to be done. And it says all that's really asked of you is that you have to be willing to stay in the room, which is, to me, spoke of, you have to be willing to stay put, take that seat within and be willing to confront and look at all the things that little gnat likes to bring up for us, and be willing to look at it and see it. And so I've always really loved that idea that that in order to heal, I need to stay put. And I have spent a lot of time, and certainly prior to recovery, there's a big part of pre-recovery that is certainly spent running out of the room and escaping in any way, shape, or form, escaping those thought forms and the feelings and the situations and all that stuff that could bring up an opportunity to heal, and running from it. And it occurred to me that it is courage. I think of courage kind of like kind of equivalent to willingness, is that it's just that decision that we don't have a clue what this healing journey is going to be like. We don't know what it will look like. I think if we knew what it was going to feel like, we might change our mind about it. You know, it's like when you make a decision on how you want to spend the Sunday and you get out there in the middle of the journey and you're like, I'd rather be home on my couch. You know, we don't always know what's coming. And so I think courage is, you know, being willing to just stay put during those moments. So that's kind of what came to me. Our reading will be from Timothy, and this opening song is kind of homage to that. It is 2 Timothy brings up this idea of the measuring stick of personhood, and we've been talking a bit about that in our get together on the second and fourth Tuesdays and 500 days. That's what we're chatting about. So this song kind of highlights that. It seems kind of gender specific, but that's just form. In the content, y'all can see that it's that measuring stick. It's those messages we receive that tells us we're not quite okay, we're not quite up to snuff, and that we don't need to use that measuring stick anymore. So, Marisol, would you play our opening song? Right. Thanks, Marisol. Right. Let's settle in. Dear Father, thank you for awakening. Thank you for this process of healing that we all have agreed to and invited. May we be gifted with the grace and the discernment to opening up to the guidance that we each need during our time together. God, grant us all the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so it is. Amen. Amen. All right. Our reading today is from 2 Timothy chapters 1 and 2. They're not real long chapters. And my reader is Mr. Glen Ganaway. Thank you so much for reading for us today.
My pleasure.
And I will hand it over to you.
All right. It's an honor to be here with you. So send good vibes that I read what's on the paper. NTI 2 Timothy chapter 1. It is time you look within at the darkness that blinds you to your awareness of life. You'll see many things, all of which are false. Hold my hand and know it is your own truth that you hold to as we look together at all you are not. You see yourself as less than. So you seem to resent those who act to be greater than the one you see as you. All of this is based on the measuring stick of personhood. I don't want you to deny how you feel. Denial is not the way of salvation. I want you to look at it and feel it with me. As we look at this feeling of less than and the resentment that's noticed for the one who acts out of the role of greater than, notice what you are feeling is a feeling. Move away from the thoughts of resentment to the feelings the thoughts evoke. Explore within you the feeling. Can you see that it's just a feeling? It is an experience. It is nothing more than that. The thoughts that evoke the feeling are nothing They're merely props. It is the feeling or the experience that is the goal of the Son of God. You have set out to have an experience, so let go of the thoughts and the focus on the experience they evoke. Life is a roller coaster of feelings, but when you are lost in your thoughts, you rob yourself of the feelings you set out to experience. It is as if you skim the surface, but you do not go in for a full flavor of experience. And so you desire for the experience remains at a level of which you're not conscious. The unanswered question remains unanswered because you've not allowed yourself the full experience by the distraction of your thoughts. The good teaching that you have been entrusted with is the teaching of your innocence. This is the teaching you must accept if you are to experience the fullness of your experience and let go of your curiosity. When you feel guilty for desiring experience, you cover it over with thoughts. You may call them self-rationalizations or a tool of denial. Thoughts are a distraction from desire caused by the fear of desire. Yet while you allow yourself to be distracted from it, the desire or the wish remains. Your guilt is a misperception and nothing more. But your fear of your own misperception has become an obstacle. It's time to let that obstacle go. Release yourself by accepting your own innocence. God has granted you the right to have experience. You have within you the desire to have experience. This desire remains until you've let it go, but you cannot fear it and let it go also. You must let yourself realize the experience to see that the experience can hold no limits that could ever limit or hinder you. NTI 2 Timothy chapter 2. Step forth in purpose, and purpose is all that you shall see. You protect your fear. You protect it because you believe it protects you. You believe that there's something worse than fear beneath your fear, and so you protect your fear by keeping it in storage. But you'll not find your release this way. You must go forth in purpose, which is the purpose of know thyself. With only this purpose in mind, you must be willing to release everything that's not the purpose. And fear is not the purpose, for fear's purpose is to hide the answer from you. You fear that to let loose your fear and experience is also to come to the foothold of destruction. You believe that to step to that place and not be destroyed, you must hold to the last remaining shred of fear. In other words, you truly believe fear is your salvation. This is why you hold on to it. But fear is not your salvation. Fear is the opposite of salvation. To realize this, you must be willing to experience that which you fear and let it go. By experiencing fear and not perishing, you learn that you cannot perish. This understanding taken to heart is a true glimpse of who you are. Here's a trustworthy saying. Here is a trustworthy saying. I am all that I am. And that is all I am promised to be. But I cannot limit myself through fear and know all that I am. I choose to release the limits I have chosen for myself. In their release, I see that I am. Make this the constant prayer of your heart and purpose step forth into your release. The resurrection is within you, for it is the light that has never died, but it has been covered by the mask of false belief. The mask is dark and heavy, and it occupies every thought when you believe heavily in it. This is why it must be let go. It hides that which is you and is within, living now in peace. It hides all this, and it tells you that the truth is not true. As long as you hide in fear, you believe it. You believe the false, and it is fear that keeps you standing there. It is through fear that you are purified. Do not shy away from fear. It is through fear that you realize your own shine. Because it is through experiencing fear and releasing fear that you learn that fear has no hold on you. The unlimited cannot be limited by fear. Do not flee that which life is bringing you when you know that you see it coming. Turn to it in faith, having faith that it cannot hurt you. It has come only to teach you. Move from the thinking mind to the heart, which is the place from which you may experience the gift without denying it. Experience it in trust. It is only an experience, and it places no limits on you. It is peace that shall carry you through fear. When the fear has dissipated, as a fog within sunlight, you shall see that only peace remains. Remember that the world and its thoughts are only props. Dive directly into the experience. By experiencing it in full, without a wish for salvation, you experience it without dying, and that is salvation. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate that. So much talk of fear here, which kind of points to the need for me for the courage that we spoke about earlier. It's really funny to me how every time I visit material, whether it's NTI or, from time to time, a lesson in A Course in Miracles will come to mind, and I'll seek that out and read it, or A Way of Mastery, or even our recovery literature that we refer to often. And I realize that really every time I come around to rereading material, I truly am not the same, quote, Kelly, that read through it the first time. And that's a good thing. It reminds me that Kelly is not anything stable and solid, right? It's this process. I know the first time I probably came through this particular couple of chapters, the first time through any spiritual teaching, my spiritual ego always says, oh, I got that. Oh, I understand that. Oh, yes, of course. That makes sense to me. And then the next time is kind of like maybe I've had some experiences where I really don't. I see that I don't really kind of understand what it's trying to say to me, and I open up. This time with this particular material, there's been a part of me that has understood what it's getting to for me, and a part that has consciously thought, I don't want any part of that. And that is this level of fear that I am getting in touch with during these chapters. I used to think it was, and NTI and our coming together on Tuesdays has helped. I used to think it was this fear of, the fears that I have been looking at on this spiritual journey, the fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, the fear of not belonging, the fear of the measuring stick, all those kinds of things, which, certainly come visit, ebbs and flows. I have many opportunities to look at those things. But what I'm really understanding is the fear that I've come in contact with this time through this is this fear of letting go of this personal self, this identity of Kelly. And the level of that has been pretty intense. And I think that's why, I think Holy Spirit is sending me these ideas of courage, these ideas of just stay put. You can get through this process. You can continue to look. And the recognition that this stuff is truly just sitting side by side. I point to the head, right? But that's not necessarily there. It's just sitting side by side. The practice of being able to be aware of peace in my life, of stillness in my experience, moments of absolutely no reactions to what's going on in the world or in my experience of the world. Having those experiences, and then right next to it can be this fear of an experience that doesn't make any sense in light of what I experienced before on the peace side, if that makes any sense at all. I feel kind of babblish right now, but because I don't necessarily know how to articulate the experience. But the recognition, and it kind of goes back to some of the stuff that Sharon was sharing last weekend that was so helpful to me, in that part of what I've missed and what NTI is helping me with this round through this material is the acknowledgement of who we are in truth first. Even if that seems, it's kind of like acting as if. I think I have often kind of rejected that kind of teaching because it seems so, if I'm quaking in fear, it seemed very hypocritical to say, I am peace, I am love, I am joy, I am stillness, I am truth, when I'm in the middle of quaking like that. And I'm understanding that it is the importance of acknowledging the truth of who I am, and yet honoring the experience of Kelly wherever she is within that realm. And so that's kind of allowed me a little bit more to be willing to look at fear as it comes up. And like I said, sometimes this fear seems, pretty obvious during the course of the day. 2 Timothy talks, right up front in the first chapter about this measuring stick, and it uses this example that you may be coming from this place of less than, right? Just that idea that I am not up to snuff. There's a lot of things within me that need to be fixed or changed before I can be in the world with any sense of being okay with that. And then says you may be matched up in your life with someone who has the opposite experience, and they think they're just a little bit better than you. And so you come up against this individual, and of course, that's not going to be a real pleasant experience. And the truth is, I do have that. A gal I absolutely adore that I work with that has uber confidence And my experience is that I've had to learn a lot. Technology's changed a lot recently in my job. I've had to use some new platforms. I'm learning new even terminology and just a whole bunch of stuff. And she's about 7 years younger than me, and just that stuff just comes to her so easy, right? So every time I do something that I think is like right on, I did it, I mastered it, she comes around and points out an easier way to do it, every single time. And I'm like, I'm fine with the way I'm doing it, because every time I think I've mastered it, you come through. So anyway, there's that experience, right? And so during the course of a workday, I get hit with this less than measuring stick kind of stuff often. And so the staying in the room or staying put is, not withdrawing when that initial reaction shows up, not withdrawing into, the spiral that I can go down, which says, what am I doing here? I should be aging out of this kind of job. I don't belong here. I obviously, all the crap. They'll be better off without me. They need to get some youngin' in here that can do this stuff, that can keep up with her, yada, yada, yada. And staying in the room is truly, oh man, that does not feel good. That just doesn't feel good. And I see that I have a tendency right now to where I would like to call out for the rest of the day. I would like to find a good excuse as to why I don't need to remain here. And I'm going to take PTO for the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week, and then I just won't have to deal with this anymore. And so staying in the room says, no, we're going to finish the workday. And some days that's as far ahead as I can see, that I'm just going to stay here in this workday and watch it and feel it and be with it and affirm, even when I'm within it, that I can just honestly say that. And I don't feel like a hypocrite when I say, okay, this is the experience I'm having right now. I'm knotted up. I don't feel like I belong here. I don't feel worthy of sitting in this seat. But I have had enough prompts. I've had enough validation internally that tells me this is not the truth of who I am. And I can't experience that right this instant, but I can trust the people that have shared with me that they know this truth about themselves. I can recall a time when I've known the truth about myself, and I can be willing to stay right here and allow this storm to pass. And I'll tell you what, it has been, I don't know, I got sober in 1988. And that's when all this stuff started for me. And it's taken that long to be able to truly sit still and sit in the room with that. And like what Sharon hit on last, I just noticed that I am able to do that more than I ever was able to do that before. And I'm so grateful for that. And a little bit further on in 2 Timothy, it's talking about, on this journey, I'm going ahead just a bit. I'm not quite sure what chapter it is, or even what book it is in NTI, but it's talking about the need on the journey to be both grateful, absolutely grateful for the awakening that is happening, even if it is not your conscious experience in the moment. You still just be grateful for the fact that awakening is happening. And then right side by side, it's being honest about what is being presented that in the past has blocked you from the experience of awakening and knowing your true self and being honest about what you find. And once again, affirming the desire above all else to know yourself as truth. Even as you're experiencing yourself as this collection of thoughts that you think is who you are. Because I have not come to that crossroads where I am able to lay that down completely, right? And I don't think I need to project out into a time when I can. And because that can keep me really crazy in this spiritual ego thing. You know, part of that yardstick stuff is it's global, right? It's global in my experience is that it started at a very young age. There's no doubt in my mind about that. A very overachieving brother. I mean, just insanely. And so that measuring stick started there. I have it in all areas of my life as an adult. I certainly took it into recovery as well. There were people with, quote, better recovery than me, whatever that means, right? I mean, we don't have a real high standard there, right? You just stay away from the drink and you're doing good or whatever that might be. So to be measuring yourself along that group is really kind of nutty. And then it's at work. It is, and honestly, it comes into awakening together with me, right? I mean, it shows up here. And sometimes that is a real painful place for it to show up because I can know in my head, you know, if I, you know, sometimes I have a tendency to overshare, right? And so I can feel this, you know, little bit of shame come in, right? And so then the thoughts start about what y'all in your little boxes are thinking of me and, you know, all that jazz. And, you know, that I can even recognize that that is just BS because I know you guys, right? And I have had many experiences of acceptance and incredible love. But yet it can still just go on too. You know, I go through cycles where I'm listening to a voice that says, one, you can't go back in that room. You can't go in that room. And so the next thought is that I won't go back in the room with y'all. I can see how absurd, how absolutely absurd that is. And yet the believing power can be so great that I think, one, I don't have anything to share. I'm just a hypocrite, right? Talking all this crap. And yet still, you know, comparing myself. I did hear something that helped me that when we compare, we're often comparing our weakness to somebody else's strength, right? We're often seeing them at their best, right? And we're feeling the most insecure, right? Who can win that stupid game? It's just insane to me. And yet it comes back around and I get triggered and I play the game with it, you know? And so what's fun about as you are saying yes to awakening and saying, I'm so grateful that awakening has taken place, even as Kelly is here just, whatever is going on with her in any given day, right? Whatever trigger is going on. And being honest about that, but being so grateful about awakening that then I find myself in a very, so my head's been saying, time to leave awakening together. You can't go back in there. You can't be in that room. You're not good enough. You're not valuable enough, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden I am volunteering to be in the room more. It's the funniest thing. Volunteering to show up and being grateful for it. So it's a funny journey. And and then another thing that's common to me this round through NTI is the reference again to going back to kind of the beginning of how all this started. Wouldn't it be wonderful if things were different than they are? This wish, this desire to experience something other than the truth of who we are. And so this thing we created in order to go do that. Because we wanted to experience. That's something we wanted. And I think it's come through to me more recently that any experience that comes up, I mean, that's the way for me out of victimhood, is any experience that comes up, I'm like, oh, this, I don't know consciously that this has something to do with, that desire I had, that I wonder what things would be like if they weren't, like this, that I chose that, not the specifics in form, but in general, I wanted to come and have this experience. I wanted to experience being in a little square box in this room with y'all and seeing you and getting to know you. And then as a result of that, it's brought up all the insecurities that I have from time to time, as in every area of my life does. That's the experience I wanted. The thing about acknowledging awakening is that all of a sudden, those experiences can, through them, lead me back home. Because it's that same thing as having decided on how I want to spend my Sunday, and I get halfway into it and I'm like, I wish I wasn't doing this. I wish I was back on my couch. Actually honoring the experience is the way I'm going to get back to my couch, right? And what's funny, and this came to me when Rhoda and I were visiting in NTI days last week probably, was that so the problem with having a personality that's so averse to feeling in general, right? I look back as, my history of leaving the room, literally, started as a very young kid. I had a record player, and Anne brought all this stuff back to me when she did her homily, and we were listening to Karen Carpenter, and I would literally hide out in my bedroom as a little kid. And I had this little phonograph, and I would just play music over and over, and I would pretend, right? I mean, I had the hairbrush microphone, right? And I'm lip syncing and singing, and that was my first escape, right? I am this person on stage with all the adoration looking at me, and that was my first escape. And it was peaceful there, and it was fun there, and as a kid it was just awesome. Rainy Days and Mondays was like one of my favorites. And so I wonder, as I'm driving to work on a rainy Monday morning, why I'm thinking, I don't want to do this. This sucks. It always gets me down, right? It's just that program within me. And then it was, the fantasy of a special relationship coming and saving me as soon as I got into adolescence. And that, became very attractive. I could spend forever in my head just spinning these fantasies about whoever the object of that obsession was at any given time. And just the thinking of it would take me out of whatever situation it was that was creating anxiety, and I'd be at peace. And that was an escape. At age 13, I discover, I think it was, I don't know, what was it? It was like grape juice and probably vodka or something like that, right? That was my first time getting inebriated. Grape juice and vodka at age 13. Being under the influence for me was like, oh, thank God, where the hell has this been my entire life? That's an addict speaking, for sure. It was like, oh, thank God. I was very fortunate that, I only drank for 12, 13 years. And then I found myself in recovery. And so, a lot of those escapes, still, even in recovery, I'm so grateful that, the alcohol and the drugs, and then eventually nicotine, which was like one of the killers for me, right? When I quit smoking. But there's still plenty of other escapes. I could still spin a fantasy about, a perfect special relationship coming and rescuing me. But then I'm discovering that it's basically just thinking in general that has become the escape. Just thinking in general has become the escape from realizing myself as truth. And what's funny, so you have all this thinking, it says in NTI, it says we have all this thinking that's covering up the feeling, because we don't want to feel. And yet the feeling is what we came here for, to experience. And so if we absolutely refuse to feel it, we're not only getting in the way of what we came here for, we're never going to get to that point where we say, okay, that's enough. I truly have been there and done that. And then I can relax, right? Because I see, I see that this is what I wanted. This is what I came for. I'm not denying myself experience anymore. So we can get on the trip back home, which is, we come to find out that's our true desire. And our program in recovery, early on has a tool for looking within and reflecting, and a very helpful tool. I mean, it's, our kind of another homage to courage is, there's a line in there that talks about all this stuff being the spiritual path in general, being simple, but not easy. A price had to be paid. This is out of our literature. And it meant the destruction of self-centeredness, which is the dismantling of the personal self. It's not creating a better, stronger, faster ego. It's not creating something that could be in the room with all the little square boxes and go, I can match up to all of them, physically, look at my appearance, my intellect, any of that kind of stuff. Our time is not spent creating a better Kelly. It's spent looking at what has kept me from experiencing who I really am. but it is simple, right? Honesty, being open, being willing. It is simple, but it isn't easy because of this thinking that gets in the way. Gets in the way of us feeling, which feeling is the way we're going to heal it, by staying put. And I had a very nice, I thought it was awesome. The Holy Spirit gave me this. I think it was Friday night. I was in the living room with Jim, with my husband, and I'm trying to watch something on TV. And sometimes he gets to watching videos on his phone. And if I ask him, he'll put headphones on. But I was just in that frame of mind where I'm like, he should know to put the damn headphones on. I should not have to ask him. Just put the headphones on. And so then I decided, well, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to go back to my bedroom and just leave. And so I go back and I'm putzing around in the bedroom. And all of a sudden the thought came, so you left the room. You just left the room. And I'm like, yeah, but it's okay. I didn't cause a scene, right? I didn't throw a temper tantrum to get it my way. I just, removed myself. And some people say that's sometimes the best way to accept something is just leave. And so then this little thought came that said, yeah, but really, whatever you were watching on the TV probably doesn't have as much value as you think it does. And probably the value tonight would be just to be in the room with him. Whatever he's doing, whatever's on the TV, that doesn't matter. The value tonight is for you to not leave the room. As you're teaching a homily, talking about not leaving the room. So I went back out and I sat down on the couch and I realized that whatever was on the TV, I didn't have to hear. It was nothing. And I just sat in the room. And there was peace. And I'm grateful. I'm going to finish with a reading from Map of Consciousness. And then we'll play our closing or our next song or whatever. So this is, I think part of this courage stuff kind of came through, I think, Regina in one of my videos for 500 days. She makes a mention of courage in the Map of Consciousness, David Hawkins' book, Dr. David Hawkins' book. Courage being the tipping point, right? And it's early on, right? I mean, it's when you can access courage, it is kind of that in the levels of consciousness, it's that place where we can make that switch and start moving towards truly remembering who we are. And so this is just a description of the 200 level in that book, Courage. And it says at the 200 level, power really first appears. When we test subjects at the energy levels below 200, we find, as can be readily verified, that they all go weak. Everyone goes strong in response to the life supportive fields above 200. This is the critical level that distinguishes the positive and negative influences of life. At the level of courage, an attainment of true power occurs. Therefore, it is also the level of empowerment. And that's why I think of courage as also being synonymous with willingness. It is that point where we can finally, within ourselves, choose to start identifying with truth as who we are and not as this entity. This is the zone of exploration accomplishment, fortitude, and determination. At the lower levels, the world is seen as hopeless, sad, frightening, or frustrating. But at the level of courage, life is seen to be exciting, challenging, and stimulating. It reminds me of what Sharon shared last week. And I can't remember exactly how she put it, but it was maybe once you accept something, then it all becomes exploration, something along those lines. And that's what this reminds me of. Courage implies the willingness to try new things and deal with the vicissitudes of life. At this level of empowerment, one is able to cope with and effectively handle the opportunities of life. Not perfectly. Marisol shared with me earlier also that in recovery, we say, progress, not perfection. And she shared with me that practice is progress. And I just love that. So none of this is perfect for us, but it is a way for us to practice and progress. So that's all I got. So we're going to go to our next song is kind of just an answer to the first song. This is Amy Grant's All I Ever Have to Be. And I love this. So I share it with you. So Marisol, would you play that? And just FYI, I decided a while ago that I wanted to try and make lyric videos. And that was my first lyric video. That was my own little creation. So we'll be sharing some more of those. All right, we got some time if anyone wants to share. Oh, yes, and also this is we donate. So Marisol put the link in the chat. I apologize for not sharing that. Yes, David. Yeah, I can't hear you.
How about now? Oh, look at that. Yay. Thank you so much for your sharing. I'm really, really grateful to be here. I really love the message of staying in the room. I feel like it applies to so many places in my life. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to contemplate it. Really thank you for doing this. And I really enjoyed getting to hear not just the lesson, but to hear your story and the context of your life around the lesson. And I really aspire to be able to share the way that you do. So thank you so much. And I look forward to kind of contemplating your message even more after we're done here.
Thank you, David. Joanne. Hi, Joanne.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I have people I don't know this.
Joanne, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Maybe turn off your video and just we could hear you better. All right. Anne or Rhoda? Rhoda?
It's good to see you all. Lucky me, I get to be down here in Florida. Your message, Kelly, I just have to say, if you didn't see the title alone was like the drive home for me. I could just hear that title playing over and over and over again. And it's not just in the way you said it, but it was actually in the way you wrote it. It was grant me the serenity to ... And I could feel the pause. Just pause. Grant me the serenity to stay put. The only thing I'm ever being invited to do is stay put, be with exactly what's here for as long as I possibly can. Not forever, but as long as I can. So thank you so much for that message, Kelly. Love you.
Joe has his hand up. You can go ahead, Joe.
Go, Joe.
Thanks, Reverend Kelly. Thank you for the message. I just so much of it. Somebody typed in the chat that it was so relatable, and I think so much of your message was relatable for me. And one thing that I would share in relation to recovery, which you referenced several times, is that something that's occurred to me is that, you know, addicts and other people who drink and use, you know, the purpose of that is to get an effect. You know, you toss the whiskey down to get an effect, and you expect that effect it comes pretty quickly, right? Whatever it changes in the thinking and the body and whatever, it's a very quick effect. And the spiritual endeavors that we undertake and the practices, the effects aren't always like that. They, you know, it's like the analogy of planting the seed, right? It takes a while. It happens often at a sub-perceptual level. And so trusting the process is just, that's just kind of what's coming back to me more and more. It's just trusting the process. Staying in the room, it's like, but it hurts so fucking bad. Why would I stay here? I don't want to feel like this, right? It's just trusting what you've said, what Rhoda just shared, what's right here in the book. This thing from 2 Timothy where it says, actually this is 2 Timothy chapter 1 where it says, you have not allowed yourself the full experience because the distraction, it says by the distraction of your thoughts, you know? So stay in the room and which to me is not, it's just, you know, staying in here, just staying in here. And, you know, and recognizing when, you know, it goes up into storyland and just coming back into here and being willing to experience that. So, anyway, thanks for letting me share. And it, yeah, that's the main addiction is the addiction to thought. I think that's something we can all relate to. So anyway, I appreciated your message. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Joe. All right, Joanne, you came back to the room.
Yeah. So, you know, Kelly, about maybe a year and a half ago, I met you on a retreat at the retreat house, and I feel like our hearts connected, and I have truly loved doing 500 days with you on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. And, you know, so I could so feel you today. And I just loved the things you shared. Like, they're not different than the things I think. I mean, like this whole thing with others and, you know, this oversharing and not wanting to go back in and, no, you know, bottom line, I just loved it. I loved being with and staying with it. And I loved just thinking in general can become the escape. Staying put, I love that. And you know what? Icing on the cake, Joe, you put icing on the cake and the thing that you just said. So thank you all.
Thank you, Joanne. I want to thank Glenn again for reading for me. Thank you so much. And Marisol, of course, for running the room. And we will turn it over. Stay for fellowship. I'm probably going to have to switch to my phone and drive home. But I'll be there. All right. Thank you.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.